Welcome to Sacred Cow Shipyards, where no ship is safe from being taken down to its nuts and bolts. So I've got a confession to make that would eventually come up anyway, so we'll just cover it right now. On the hierarchy of science fiction, I kind of put Star Wars and Star Trek both somewhere near the bottom. Because really, when you get right down to it, they're not very heavy on the science side of things. Star Wars is pretty honest about it. The majority of the universe revolves around what amounts to be pure, unadulterated magic, and they bolt their technology to the side of it and claim it's a science fiction show. Okay, fine, that works. Star Trek, on the other hand, has the technology itself be the magic. I mean, we've got transporters and replicators and artificial gravity and warp drives and so on and so forth, and that becomes basically magic. As the man once said, any technology sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. And, I mean, maybe one day we will develop those kinds of really cool technologies. But there's only so many times you can repolarize the deflector dish or realign the I don't even know what's before it all starts taking on that kind of whimsical buzzword we're just playing in science fiction because it's fun to play with shiny toys aspect. And while we're doing confessions, I might as well cover another one as well. I actually enjoyed the J.J. Abrams reboot of the Star Trek movie series, to be perfectly honest. I grew up on the original series, and Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, and even forced myself to watch Enterprise. But, I mean, no, J.J. Abrams' vision is not traditional Star Trek. I'm not even going to try to argue that point. But it is fun, and personally that's what I go to the movies for, to be entertained. And honestly, I'll admit that I do enjoy the characters with the new actors behind them. I mean, I personally find Bundle Snort Cabbage Patch's Khan to be the weakest one, but it's really hard to go up against Ricardo Montalban on basically anything. And really, if we get down to brass tacks, the J.J. Abrams Trek has both Carl Urban and Simon Pegg constantly chewing up the scenery. That's pretty much a win-win for everyone involved. Okay, where on Earth am I going with this? Well, it's not on Earth. In fact, at 35 miles in diameter, it's probably too large to even fit in my shipyards. But today, we're going to take a look at that. Yeah, that falls under the heading of what the on a rocket-propelled pogo stick is that? Well, apparently that is the Starbase Yorktown from the Star Trek Beyond movie in the J.J. Abrams universe. Yeah, let's take a minute and just drink that all in. It seems like this is what happens when the writers and artists all took acid and watched Inception with their glassblower buddies who were stoned out of their minds by themselves and all went together, yeah, man, think about this big glass ball in space, man, and put stuff in it and let's see what happens, man. I mean, y'all are welcome to think I'm being unfair here, and maybe I am. But the fact of the matter is, this is a 35-mile diameter glass sphere in space, of which we're using maybe 10% of its volume for actual, contained environments. In fact, a lot of it is like outdoor environments because you have this massive amount of atmosphere inside of it. So if someone were to, poke a hole into this big glass blessed floating sphere in space, you'd vent out I don't even know how much atmosphere and how many people and how much stuff, all in the name of not having a station be aligned with a planet in the Federation, because the United Federation of Planets has never built a starbase anywhere near a significant planet in its membership group, because that never happens. Wait. And on top of being a massive volume of wasted space, the designers actually built buildings inside of this thing on every conceivable axis. They pointed buildings in every blessed which way, which of course created all kinds of complications for the artificial gravity system because, of course, we're talking about Star Trek, and they have artificial gravity. So at the center of this massive monstrosity is a quote-unquote gravitational slipstream, which apparently is what happens when you have way too many artificial gravity systems intersecting all at one point. And it basically boils down to you can just float around and do crazy stuff all by yourself and Maybe you'll get sucked into the middle of the station. Maybe you'll get sucked into the outer space. No one really knows what happens here because it's all just a blessed plot device. And as if this every which way construction couldn't get any worse, some of these arms that have buildings tacked onto their tops and bottoms and sides in every which ways actually contain space lanes. Oh yes, some of these arms actually connect the outside of the sphere to the inside of the sphere. Because if I were going to put a shipyard attached to a massive starbase that is nothing more than a massive blessed soap bubble, I would totally put said shipyard at the center of the starbase. Because, if a ship was coming in damaged and on fire and in danger of bad things happening to it and the universe around it, I would totally want it sailing down the middle of countless apartment complexes and commercial buildings and parks and lakes and so on, so forth. Who the hell designed this again? Why did you do this? But wait, I'm not actually done, because this is a blinking soap bubble in space. And as we discussed previously in some of our previous episodes, the things you can see through are typically not as strong as the things you can't. And this is a massive sphere of things you can see through. Well, wow, that's not a very durable thing that might come under attack at some point, right? Well, apparently Starfleet thought about this, and they put installations along its surface that have photon torpedoes and so on and so forth, and there are satellites floating out there around this massive monstrosity that have also photon torpedoes and phasers and I don't even know what else, but apparently they're all centrally controlled and fairly easily disableable and individually not that strong. Great. You have a massive glass sphere floating in space full of civilians and tradespeople and families and normies who just want to get on with their daily lives and don't really care about the Federation except, hey, we get to do cool things in this Escher nightmare thing out in the middle of space. And well, I mean, you want to keep them safe, right? Except apparently your defensive measures are, good job, guys. And hey, do you want to know what you should do with your massive freaking glass sphere full of civilians and starship families and who knows what else with limited defensive capabilities to protect it? You should put it right next to the Necro Cloud Nebula. I'm not even joking. It was put next to a nebula called the Necro Cloud. Necro Cloud. I'm not kidding. It's a nebula full of erratically moving, sensor-disrupting, power plant-killing asteroids. But on top of that, it's called the Necro Cloud. And this massive soap bubble of normies was put right next to it. Why would you ever do that? Now, before I get the fanboys too pissed off at me, yes, Star Trek does have some star bases and space stations that do actually make a certain degree of sense. Deep Space Nine is not one of them, and I understand that's heresy, but that's because the Cardassians have an utterly absurd sense of design and aesthetics. But stations that do make sense do exist in Star Trek. Starbase Yorktown is not one of them, and wow, I really hope it lasts as long as would be necessary to recoup its costs, because it really, really probably won't. And that's all from Sacred Cow Shipyards. Please be advised that any ship left on the dock for more than 24 hours will be compressed to a cube. Have a good day.